Welcome to the Movie Pope Show, a place where film buffs and cinephiles congregate to discuss moving art in celluloid form. Without further ado, let's see what's on today.
Let's go ahead and take a look at The Incredible Hulk by Louis Leterrier from 2008, starring Edward Norton and Liv Tyler. And we get to see, it's funny that we talked about villains being killed off a few minutes ago. There is one villain who is going to be recurring in future movies, and that's General Thunderbolt Ross, played by the late William Hurt, and later on by Harrison Ford, of all people. But I do want to kick off because I mentioned this before we got started. But when I initially saw The Incredible Hulk, I thought this was a sequel to Ang Lee's Hulk from 2003. You know, the one with the horrible CGI and the demon dogs that made you so scared you didn't want to go near a pet shop, right? And you kind of have to wonder how desperate was Nick Nolte that he agreed to play Bruce Banner's father and have a really, really confusing and bitchy superpower at the same time. But what we get here is it's actually a far more interesting story than I would give it credit to, because because traditionally the story is that Bruce Banner is out in the desert. They're doing tests on the gamma bomb. He sees a kid, on the test site. He goes and pushes the kid into a trench, but then he catches the full blast and he becomes the Incredible Hulk. Mm-hmm. Whereas here, and this is another thread that we'll see develop, in future MCU projects. It's the recreation of the super soldier serum that Abraham Erskine created, that ends up going not too well. And and Edward Norton in this case is playing Bruce Banner, and he decides to head south, quite literally, to the country of Brazil. And I gotta say, like when I'm watching the opening scenes when he's in Brazil, the only thing that I can think of was, I bet Louis Leterrier was just thinking, man, I really want to shoot in Brazil. Like, what can I do? What can I put in this script so that we can film in Brazil? Because I want to have the Gracie brothers in there, the guys who teach Brazilian jiu-jitsu. Because I knew that face looked familiar when he was doing that breathing test. Because I'm like, is that one of the Gracie brothers? Like, that
is one of the grossest looking things, is when he like sucks it all in and you see the diaphragm. I'm like, I'm not supposed to see that. I'm perfectly fine never seeing that again.
I'll tell you what I did. Like, as soon as I saw that, I'm like, I'm gonna get me another can of Coke. Like, I'm going in the opposite direction. I'm gonna get me a Coke. I'm gonna get me my Reese's Klondike bar, and I might get a bag of chips. I do not want to look like that.
Yeah, when he's trying to like do the heart rate and the guy's slapping him, I'm like, bro, you got a death wish, but okay.
So the Incredible Hulk has a very interesting storyline, and I would even say, like, out of all the Avengers, he kind of gets the short end of the stick because he only gets the one movie, right? And really, when it comes to his story arc, we really don't see it fleshed out in individual movies. He's always, he's either a secondary character or just hanging out in the back doing whatever it is. Because what we see here is he sort of had an on-again, off-again relationship with Elizabeth Ross. And then something happens and he has to go into hiding. So, gents, let's dive into The Incredible Hulk here. And I got to say, like, out of all of the MCU movies, I feel like this movie had elements that could sort of work, but they had no idea on how to make it work. You had General Ross.
Yeah, that's a very fair statement, because when you watch it, you're like, I'm enjoying this, but compared to some of the other MCU movies, there are a few things where you're like, there's something about this that just doesn't quite feel the same, for better or worse. I do like that it is still kind of, I don't want to say dark and gritty, because I feel like that sets a very different expectation. But I guess just it takes itself surprisingly seriously. Like you had mentioned earlier about the fact this feels like a sequel. We saw Iron Man become Iron Man. We see Captain America become Captain America. We don't see Thor get his powers. We don't see him start, and we don't see the Hulk. Those are stories where we pick up, story in motion, and especially this one, there's already a lot of stuff that's happened off screen that we learned about as we go. And then, yeah, to your point about Hulk being a character in other people's films later on, a surprising amount of his development and story happens off screen. It happens in between films, in between even full arcs where he hasn't been around for a while, and you're like, let's find out what's going on with him.
The big one. The big one in Endgame too, where you come to find out he spent like 18 months in the gamma chamber, and he managed to fuse his mind with the Hulk's body. And it's like, well, that would have been an interesting montage to see, but to your point, it happens off screen. We don't know how it happened. We just see what the end result is.
Yeah, and I think we are just now getting a bit more information about that in the upcoming Spider-Man film, not the upcoming Hulk film. Mm-hmm. But yeah, this one, it does feel, unfortunately, very disconnected, even beyond the fact it's a different actor. There are just so many things in this that don't feel the same, but I do still think it's really good. I think Roth plays, he's, I think, a good time in pretty much anything. Yeah. I really like when he fights the Hulk after his serum injected, like the first time, where he's still.
Oh, are you talking about at the university campus?
Yeah.
Okay.
And you're like, holy shit, this dude's like actually dodging some stuff. And I do think it's really funny that there's the thing where the Hulk like throws the giant piece of metal at him, and he like slides up under it. Because I'm like, if he didn't, he would have just absolutely cut that dude in half. Like there's no walking that off. But then at the end, he just walks up to him, and Hulk this is Sparta, kicks him into a tree like 3 miles away. You're like, well, that was a little underwhelming at the end. But yeah, when you talk about the fact that stuff has happened before this, even in that, when they've got like the sound emitters, like Thunderbolt Ross already has some weapons and tactics specifically for the Hulk. So it is very clear, like, this is not a new story, new person. This is someone who's been here before, who's done some stuff. I freaking love the thing with him trying to speak. I don't know if it is Spanish, but I know that he ends up speaking Portuguese later. But where he's trying to say, "Don't make me angry. You won't like me when I'm angry," and he can't get the words out right to the guy at the bottling factory. And he's like, "You won't like me when I'm hungry," I think is what he ends up saying, which is stupid but funny. And then when oh my God, when he's buying the purple shorts and he's stretching them to see if they're going to be big enough, he turns around and there's a kind of heavy set guy, and he like holds them up to that guy.
I think that was a woman, Bradley.
Oh, was a bigger person, whatever. You see them from the back. I couldn't tell. But oh my God, that's so funny. And then this one, it is interesting that, God, this movie came out, was it?
It came out in 2008 because
it was 08. Okay, I don't know why. All of a sudden I was thinking 2012.
Yeah, because it was the second movie after in the MCU after Iron Man.
Yeah, so this one came out in 08, set up storylines and characters that we just got the payoff for some of them in the most recent Captain America film. That is a very long time between.
Well, don't forget She-Hulk, because we do get reintroduced to Blonsky in She-Hulk as well.
So Blonsky's not the one I was thinking about. I was thinking about Tim Blake Nelson's character. Stern. Where
it becomes the leader.
Yeah, and we see a bit of his transformation in this. I don't think it's at the very end, but and then he literally does not show up at all, is not mentioned until the most recent So I'm like, man, they were working on payoffs almost freaking 20 years in the making.
I mean, to be fair, we didn't see Liv Tyler for another 20 years either. So,
which is such a shame. But yeah, I do like that there were multiple characters and storylines in this that we have gotten to see through a few different things. Because Roth even showed up in Shang-Chi when he was Abomination in that. So I do like getting to see some of these characters pop back up. But yeah, this one still just unfortunately is kind of the dark horse of, if not the entire MCU, certainly of Phase One. Where like I mentioned earlier, I didn't know this was an official MCU film until the Avengers, and then you're like, oh, okay, I didn't know I was supposed to connect these.
Because like you said, when we were discussing Iron Man, I mean, Obadiah Stane, we got a lot out of him for the time that he was on screen. So we knew what he was up to, and we knew how it was going to go down, and we knew how Iron Man dealt with him. I felt like with the Incredible Hulk, Banner was dealing with two villains, right? He was dealing with Ross, who's got the full might of the U.S. Army behind him to do whatever it is. I also think it's kind of remarkably disturbing that Ross, whenever he wants, he can just bring out more troops and more weapons, and there's nobody in Congress asking him, saying, "Hey, I don't think that's in the budget." Like, what?
Yeah. Hey,
God,
the last 20 guys we sent you, none of them are ever going to walk again.
No,
maybe
40.
we should.
Bradley,
maybe we should stop.
Let's be real though. The government in the MCU has been the most like ridiculously dysfunctional yet inconsistent thing in the entire story.
Oh, come on! You let Ross become president of the United States. I mean,
You know what's crazy is
right
you mentioned that earlier. I was like, it's going to sound dumb. I forgot that Harrison Ford was playing the same character because we saw Brave New World, and I obviously knew it at the time, but I clearly have not remembered that film very well.
Is it the lack of mustache? I think it was the lack of mustache.
Maybe. It was unfortunate. It's unfortunate that I forgot that was the same character. But yeah, like to your point, it very much is a situation where we have someone who is a kind of henchman for the antagonist, then becomes the big fight at the end. So, who is the monster? Who is the man? Is Ross the primary antagonist, or is it Roth who becomes the abomination?
I mean, well, to be fair, because initially Ross kind of encouraged it because he did retrieve that sample and have it injected into Blonsky, and then Blonsky, I guess for whatever reason he became a bit of an addict. Afterwards.
Well, if there's anything that we know about what the super soldier serum does, it enhances the inherent traits of the character that it's put into. Mm-hmm. Like they talk about that in Captain America, the first Avenger and stuff like that. It's the whole like thesis statement of Erskine talking to Steve in that moment. So maybe that's something inherent in Blonsky's character that was there. I mean, I think he references in She-Hulk that he's like does a lot of drugs or something like that, or did a lot of drugs in his life. I don't know.
See, I thought he was referring to the serum when he said that.
I
don't know. When they talk about him, it very much feels like when we meet John, whatever his name is,
John Walker.
Yeah. Like the way they describe him, like he is as clean cut hero type character as he could be. There is definitely something about the super soldier serum bringing out super soldier serum. That's kind of fun to say. About it bringing it, but I also don't know if this is the same thing. I don't know. It seems like when we first meet Blonsky that he is very much a sort of straight and narrow type person, but I don't know. That might just be me thinking that as opposed to them giving me anything to think that. But yeah, I had assumed when he said that line that the serum was the addiction that he was talking about.
Because because you see it in the movie, he becomes increasingly irrational to the point where he knocks out that that female officer and points the gun at Stearns and is like, yeah, you're going to help me get more of this shit. Like,
yeah,
no question about that.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I enjoy this movie more than a lot of people might. Like, I think it's still sort of towards the lower tier of MCU if you're gonna rank them from like 1 to what was it, like 57 or something like that in terms of Marvel properties. But I think the biggest issue this one has is they didn't know what they wanted it to be necessarily. Because originally it did, to your point, Lucas, start off. Originally, they were going to make a sequel to Ang Lee's Hulk, and then as development went on, and as the MCU started to become more of a thing in Kevin Feige's mind, he was like, "Okay, I think I'm just going to do this instead." So they did that, and then when they hired Edward Norton, it came with not just him being an actor, but having the ability to be credited as a writer on it.
Yeah.
And so Leterrier has said on the record that the only consistency between those two scripts, between the one that was shot and the one that Edward Norton wrote, was that it opened in Brazil or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. It sounds like there was a lot of issues and dysfunction in the production based on the stories. So I think that definitely affected a lot of the quality of the film. I don't know.
Well, let me ask you guys something, because when I'm watching this movie, I just think there's so much awkward chemistry between Edward Norton and all the characters around him, right? In his interaction with Liv Tyler, it's like I find it really, really hard to believe that these two have known each other for a long time, and it were actually a thing at one point, right? I think really the only, I guess the closest interaction that comes off as believable is between Edward Norton and William Hurt, right? When he's playing General Ross and he's trying and he's going after him. So I just want to get your guys' take. Did you guys feel like there's a lot of awkwardness on Edward Norton's part? And more importantly, how do you think the movie would have played out had Mark Ruffalo been in that role from the very start instead of taking over in the Avengers movie?
So I was before you added that, I was literally thinking that the fact that the Incredible Hulk can lose his shit at any given time and go absolutely nuclear. I think about if I were given that character description as an actor, I would think, okay, I'm probably going to be a bit uncomfortable around people. I'm probably going to be nervous that someone is going to say something, do something. I'm going to react or just explode without realizing it. And I feel like, because I also was thinking about, like the way that Rogue is in X-Men, where she acts a certain way around some people because she's scared of touching them. The idea that anything could set you off at any given time, you might act a bit uncomfortable around people. I definitely feel like those are two actors who had that same point, and one of them did really well with it, and one of them took it too far. I think Norton comes across as a bit weird and a bit not having chemistry with anyone. I personally think he's trying a bit too hard to get that character detail, to get
he was kind of like over methoding the method.
I think so. I think there's something about it where I'm not sure if it's no, screw it. I know it's an acting thing. I just think he took that one particular character detail, took it too far, and then the end product is every interaction you see him have with someone, you're like, this is off in a way I don't like. Whereas you get someone like Mark Ruffalo who comes into it, and I always think of the scene where he gets kind of cornered by Natasha at the start of the Avengers, and he's like he's wringing his hands. That is such an easy thing to do as an actor if you want to look immediately physically uncomfortable. If you start wringing your hands, that's such an easy thing to do. He's able to do that while still being a character, while still interacting with people and being a good scene partner. I feel like Edward Norton took that and went too far with it. Whereas whereas Mark Ruffalo, I think, is just so much more natural with it. I think a little bit of that, in the nicest way possible, is because he is a bit more awkward of a person in real life. I think that's probably
he's also very soft-spoken too, because if you watch any interviews he does, he's very soft-spoken, and that's perfect for someone like Banner, who is supposed to be like this timid character. So when he does turn into the Hulk, it's like you can't really believe that's the same guy, because that it doesn't square. Like, the math isn't mathing right there.
Yeah. And between the two of them, I definitely think it's the same character detail they're both trying to get. I just think one of them does it considerably better.
So how would you think the movie would have played out had Ruffalo been in that role instead of Norton?
I think it's especially hard to say because I know that Norton had so much writing control over it. So it's a little hard to say, if he had been involved, maybe the script wouldn't have been rewritten so much. So maybe even some of the weirdness that we feel from the story and from the characters, maybe that would have been different if there hadn't been too many people involved. I, to be honest, still think the film would have been maybe not, I don't want to say forgotten the way that it has been. I think it would have been regarded better. I definitely think, especially when he showed back up in Avengers, again, when I mentioned earlier about as soon as someone shows up we've seen before, they've got more oomph to them. But I don't know how much effect it would have had. It's so hard to say because I know that Norton messed with the script so much. That's the thing where I'm just like, I would have liked to have known what the original story and script would have been, because this one does feel very disjointed, even just going from one plot point to one plot point.
Yeah, because to your point, it sounded like they were trying to appease Norton just to keep him on. Really,
Yeah,
they're trying to like make Leterrier happy, but also they wanted to appease Norton. And at the end, nobody was happy because, well, we've seen the end result, really.
Yeah, I forgot until Brendan said that I do remember hearing that this film that he had Norton, I have heard from like multiple projects he's worked on that he has had serious creative control, and actor usually does not tend to have in projects. And then for better or worse, if you I do theater. I know what it's like if you're getting too many voices telling you things at one time. If you do not have the one clear, definitive voice, it just causes issues every single time. It muddies the waters. That is what this film feels like. It feels like there is disjointness in, again, just going from scene to scene. It's not as cohesive as a lot of these other films are. And it feels it. It feels like it. And it's one of those things that you might not be able to put your finger on it, but you're like, something about this doesn't click the way the other MCU films do early on. And I think that's got to just play a big role.
And do you think that probably would have? Do you think probably that might have played a huge role as to why the Hulk only got the one movie, as opposed to the others who got 3 movies?
Hard to say moving forward. After the Avengers, I really assumed we were going to get another Hulk movie. I've been thinking that for a very long time now. I remember when Black Widow's film was announced, a lot of people were like, we're really getting a Black Widow film before we're getting an Incredible Hulk film. And people were like, well, we had an Incredible Hulk film. And everyone's like, no, not that one. It's such a weird stain on the MCU now that I don't know, man. It's just such a weird thing. I don't know why we haven't gotten one since then. I don't know if maybe that's a Ruffalo thing or if it is definitively, Kevin Feige MCU team thing. I really did think after Avengers, I'm like, obviously we're going to get another Thor, another Captain America, I thought maybe that's around the time we would have gotten a Black Widow movie, but it just didn't turn out that way.
Yeah, I'd be curious to, if I ever had the chance to pick Kevin Feige's mind about something, why they've handled the Hulk in the same way. Is it like a budgetary thing? Is it a thing with Ruffalo's contract? Is it like, what is it? Like, is it because you're worried about like the problem of this guy is so powerful, you don't know how to deal with him in this way? Because you've shown him not to be like overly powerful. You've shown that like Thanos could overpower him and stuff like that. So that,
And
I mean, Wanda
Hulkbuster.
could definitely mess with him too.
yeah. So I'd be curious to know what the thought process is on how they've handled Hulk all this time, because as much as I enjoy the way that they use Smart Hulk in Endgame, it always bothers me a little bit that they went that direction with it. Did you think it was too soon? Do you think maybe Smart Hulk could have been introduced like, far later than they would have introduced him? I think I think ultimately the thing that bothers me is that it was done off screen in between everything. I think just not having the, like, they explain it, but there's not an adequate explanation. And the core of the Banner character has always been this duality of, okay, he's Banner on one hand, Hulk on the other, and he's a constant teeter-totter between the two, trying to find that balance on everything.
Okay, for the record, I'm dying because Brendan's like, yeah, my one problem, it's a little bit of a no. I have heard this complaint from him 400,000 times. I have heard manifestos about having a problem with this. And
Brendan, is there something you wish
little
to
bit of a
share with
problem.
us? The floor is open to you. I mean,
I was like, dude, every time I've heard him be like, Smart Hulk is dumb. I hate Smart Hulk. It happened off screen. It's dumb. And everyone who chose it was dumb.
Yeah, not that. I wouldn't go that far, but I don't know. In terms of the overall movie, I think the production issues were the biggest downfall. Would those still have happened with Ruffalo in place of Norton? Again, hard to say, like Bradley was saying. I like Edward Norton as an actor. I think he's a really good actor. I think he's very good at certain things, and I don't think that the Hulk was the right thing.
yeah, he's more of a
doing.
Yeah, because when you think of Edward Norton, he's like more, and he's perfect for those eclectic movies, like Birdman, for instance, or what was that?
Yeah,
it's a really, really famous movie that everybody was talking about. Was it American History X or something like that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
like movies like that, he's perfect in. I think we can all agree Edward Norton isn't really suitable for, like, the mainstream, like, superhero projects right there, because it's too involved. And and Bradley, as you were talking about your experience in theater, I was just imagining you being in the director's chair, getting up and smacking Edward Norton and be like, dude, shut the fuck up, man. You are not writing this bitch.
Dude, like, seriously, when I was thinking about it, I was like, I cannot tell you how many times I have been working with someone where they are given a character note, or it's like a particular character detail, and you're like, you're taking it too far. This does not need to be any one character detail. Does not need to be the entire thing the character is about. And I keep thinking, I'm like, he took it too far. I will say that I think if Mark Ruffalo had been in The Incredible Hulk, I think it would have been better. I think we would remember it more fondly. I still don't think it would be enjoyed all that much more than it is now. I really don't think its place in the, like when Brendan was talking about, like, if you were to number them and tier them, I don't know that it would move that much. Even if it was same script, same everything, but you just swapped actors, I really don't think it would still move all that much. It still is missing a lot of the cohesiveness that really the MCU films in general have had, particularly some of the earlier ones, because as I'm sure we all know, they kind of unraveled a little bit after a while. But especially those earlier ones, it's still missing that cohesiveness. So as much as I adore Mark Ruffalo, and I do really like Edward Norton as well, I definitely agree. I think if you give him something where it's like a really weird character, but you want it taken very seriously, dude, he is such a good choice for a lot of those kind of characters. This just doesn't work for me. But yeah, the film overall, I think, is perfectly fine. Actually, probably my favorite moment in it is when Brendan was talking about, and we do see it, where it's Bruce Banner and the Hulk, to think of them as like two different entities. I really like the scene in this where he is in the shower, and the shower head, all of a sudden he has like a little bit of a traumatic hit where it becomes the minigun on the, I don't remember if it's an airplane or a helicopter that was shooting at him as the Hulk, and it freaks him out as Banner. I kind of like having that, like, I wasn't even the one in control of the body. He's the one who went through all the stuff, and now I'm the one who has to deal with the aftermath, and I'm the one who takes a shower and has a panic attack. So I do really like that. I think that's a smart point in the movie. But yeah, I mean, overall, it's the film is fine. I do really like that it gives us the line later on from Banner where he's like, last time I was in New York, I kind of broke Harlem. That's a good line.
Listen, as much as we want to malign the Incredible Hulk, there's no denying that fight scene at the end. It's amazing. I mean,
really great.
Yeah, now granted, the CGI may have been a bit off, maybe a bit wonky, but I mean, hey, I'm not complaining. I definitely enjoyed it.
I like that design of oh my god. No. The Abomination. I was like Annihilation. I'm like, nope, that's not it.
Nope.
I do like the Abomination design in this a bit more. Like the spikes, and he looks really scary, and then later on he gets a lot more of like the amphibian look to him. I've seen
that's more of like comic accurate as you get.
I was gonna say I've seen comic pictures. I'm like, that looks a lot closer. I just liked the kind of grittier, meaner looking one a bit more. But at the same point in time, if you do want him to play not as bad of a character, that's a good design choice to do, where you make him look not as scary. I'm like, okay, that's fair.
I mean, I don't want to be that guy, but watching it again, I was just thinking, so he's completely naked because the Hulk is wearing like ripped up shorts.
Yeah.
Blonsky's going full commando here the entire time as he's getting his ass whooped by the Hulk here. I'd be good more now. I mean, now that's going to go on the internet along with Brendan, likes watching murder on the big screen. Like Luca just notices naked supervillains. So let's go ahead and move on.